It's back to school season and Clorox is donating 2 million disinfecting wipes to classrooms across America. Because back to school means things can get a little bit messy. Just ask second grade teacher Mr. Torres.
Put me and just one Clorox wipe on a team? We can take on crayon smudges, sticky fingerprints on every surface, sneezes on the door handle, juice box explosion by the sink, snack crumbs, and don't even get me started on the bathroom passes.
Clorox disinfecting wipes. Teacher's #1 wipe.
Think about it. Bathroom passes.
Clean feels good. Based on unit sales data.
The Roses were living the dream.
To you, my darling.
No, to you.
Until it all came crashing down.
He got fired.
Fired?
This Friday, stop.
You stop!
And see The Roses. Rated R. In theaters everywhere Friday.
Have you ever had a work crush? In this episode, I'm breaking down how to handle crushes at work, when to go for it, and how to go about it without it blowing up in your face. This episode is packed with practical tips for navigating workplace romance respectfully and gracefully. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no-nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease, whether you've been dating for a while or you're just getting started. I believe dating can be fun. Yes, even dating in the workplace, which I know is kind of controversial, but hear me out, it can be done. So this is going to be a quick one on work crushes because I get asked about it all the time. But really quick, you can connect with me anytime on Instagram at dating.intentionally. And you can also watch every episode on YouTube. My channel is Dating Intentionally, and you can find it in the show notes or just look it up online. Okay, so question for you. Have you ever dated anyone at work? Have you ever had a work crush? I actually asked my audience this, and there were some interesting results here. So I asked 2,000 people, have you ever had a work crush? 82% said yes, that's a lot of people. Have you ever dated someone at work? 56% said they engaged with coworkers romantically before, whether it was hooking up or a few dates that didn't pan out or a long-term relationship. So I would say just over half of the people who responded have romantically engaged with someone at work. I also asked them if it's okay to date someone at work, and 27% said it's never a good idea. 37% said it's only okay if you work in different departments. 21% said it's okay as long as they're not your direct report or they're not your boss. And so I would say overall, 60% of people think it's okay in some capacity. I don't know if you guys agree with this. So let me know where you fall on the scale of, do you think it's okay? Is it not okay? Can it work? Can it not work? Let me know. Here's the thing. Before dating apps, work was one of the top places that people met to date and to get married. I think it's a completely viable way to meet people to date. You just have to be really cautious, and there are a couple things to consider. So really quick story time. I just want to share my experience. I only had one real dating in the workplace experience when I was 19. And I will say I didn't have one beyond that because when I was in my 20s and working at an office job, I wasn't in a relationship the whole time. And since then, I've just worked for myself. So not a lot of opportunities to date when you work for yourself. But when I was 19, I did work at a summer camp. Shout out to Windsor Mountain in New Hampshire. I dated a guy who was the head boys counselor, and I was like a regular girls counselor. So he was like the leader of all the boy counselors. It was my first year. And he wasn't my boss, but he was higher up in a way. And I don't remember how old he was, but he definitely wasn't older than 25. Okay, I was 19. I would guess he was like probably 22 or 23. And this relationship lasted from the summer, like just literally day one of summer to the end. And I never worked at that camp again, which had nothing to do with him. I just didn't like being a counselor. I was so bad at it. Anyway, this environment honestly felt like it encouraged camp counselors to date, or it was just part of the culture. Like within the counselor group, there were already several couples. Some had met at camp, some had applied to be counselors together. It just didn't seem like that big of a deal as long as you weren't, really doing a lot of PDA while working in front of the campers. So that was my only work experience. And I rarely do this, but bear with me. I do have a funny story about this. But the way me and this guy got together was kind of hilarious. In the first week of camp, I noticed him. I was attracted to him. And I can't remember if I actively flirted with him, but knowing me, I probably did. And one day he walked up to me and he invited me to meet me in the dance pavilion at night in the equipment closet, which was really big. It was like, just full of like mats and other stuff. Anyway, I remember feeling fucking elated. Like, oh my God, my camp crush is asking me to have a private moment in the dance pavilion. How romantic. So, and this is before campers arrived. This was like counselor orientation. So I get there, it's at night, I'm walking in there, I'm in the pavilion, and I was so nervous. No one else was there. And he shows up, it's dark, we're in this closet, and I have no idea what's going on, but we're alone. And I remember we were chatting, and I remember going for a kiss. And he kissed me back, but then he pulled away, and he said, I'm so glad this is happening, but that's not why I asked you to come here. And then other people start showing up in this closet, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And this guy explains that he invited me to Cookie Club, which apparently Cookie Club is a secret nightly event where everyone invites one person to go somewhere on campus and eat cookies. This has nothing to do with like drugs or anything. It's just like Chips Ahoy cookies. And the whole point of this game was that by the time everyone's invited, everyone's shoved into a weird place in camp eating cookies together. It's like a community building thing. And which is very wholesome. And of course, I just completely thought he was trying to hook up with me or something. I don't know. Anyway, I felt humiliated, but also happy. And we ended up dating for the summer, and it didn't work out in the long term. But that is my coworker dating story. Okay, but back to it. Should you date in the workplace? I think it comes down to how well you know yourself and how well you'd be able to handle the awkwardness of interacting with someone who you were romantically involved with and it didn't work out, or the pain of having to face someone who hurt you on a regular basis. So that is a big factor here. Can you handle that? Can you handle being around someone, working with someone who you were intimately involved with and it didn't work out? Maybe you're not that kind of person, and that's okay. And I don't like the idea that you have to consider what it would be like if it didn't work out before you even get into something, because I want you to be more optimistic. But since this is your livelihood, you need your job to pay for your life, it's not something to carelessly jump into and hope for the best. So I did a little bit of research on this because I was curious, and in a survey of 5,000 people, 47% of people aged 27 to 42 are meeting through the apps, and then it drops to 44% at age 43 to 58. And then 26% of people aged 27 to 42 are meeting at work, compared to 28% in the age bracket of 43 to 58. So there's still a good chunk of people across different ages who are meeting at work. Like, this is a thing. And I want you to be open to it, especially if you work with a lot of people and the apps aren't really doing it for you and you struggle to find in-person opportunities. And you might be thinking, well, everyone I work with is like way older than me or way younger than me or just so not it. Okay, that's fine. But you can still leverage work events, networking events, happy hours to meet people. Okay, so here's some tips for successfully and respectfully dating in the workplace. Tip number 1 is get to know them as friends first outside of work. So this would be like, if there's someone you're like chatting with on Slack a lot, or they come by your desk and you have like some banter, whatever, try to invite them to a drink after work, like a friendly drink, or like maybe it could even be a lunch during work if you want. Just something where you're like not in the office together. You are having your own private hangout, like at a bar or somewhere else, so that you can get to know them, like who they are outside of work, basically. If it's hard to arrange that in person, I think it's totally appropriate to slide into their DMs on Instagram, especially if you have some context, right? Like, you've seen each other at work, right? So you have some context. You're not total strangers. I think it's fine to slide into their DMs if you want. But the idea is basically get to know them on a platonic basis. This is not a date, outside of work a little bit, so that you can also just decide if you're still interested in them romantically, right? Like, their work self might be different from their not work self. So you want to make sure you have a platonic foundation first. All right, tip number 2 is it's a no-go if you work directly for them or they work directly for you, like if they're your boss or they're your direct report. I think that's where it gets really messy. I don't think that you should be dating someone who's your boss or someone who's under you, basically. I think you're just going to have to let that be a crush that you just have as your crush, and you can go find someone else to date. I would say, when I took a poll of my audience, like, this was very clear. That's just like a no-go. Just don't do it. And why? Because it's like that type of relationship can be inappropriate. It gets really messy. It kind of puts your job on the line. Things become a conflict of interest. It's just not worth it, I think. All right, tip number 3 is don't put so much pressure on this. I want you to be the kind of person who can move forward in a mature way if you ask out a coworker and they say no. Or if you go on a date with a coworker and it doesn't work out, or even more than one date, right? I want you to trust that you can be the kind of person who can move through that and be mature and save face and get through it. But I understand that sometimes we get carried away and sometimes there are a lot of feelings and hearts get broken and it's hard to do that. But I want you to remember that in the beginning, you're starting from zero and you have to get through those initial early dating stages anyway to get to the point where you even have strong feelings for each other. So again, it's worth just tackling it from, can we see if we want to go on one date and then going it from there. All right, tip number 3. And this one, again, I'm curious if you agree with this, and I'm sure that this rule or tip gets broken a lot, but the advice is don't have sex until you're in a relationship. This keeps things a lot cleaner, especially for the kind of person who gets emotionally attached after sex. If things escalate for you after sex, it's better to wait until you are officially a couple to do that if you're someone who gets very emotional about it. By the way, this piece of advice was submitted to me by many people who I asked about this. This isn't just coming from me because frankly, I have not had like the kind of dating in the workplace relationship that a lot of you are thinking about. So that piece of advice came from other people as well. My next tip is test the waters of mutual interest by messaging them on Slack.
What if buying a new appliance felt like a win for your home and your wallet? Save up to 50% plus up to an extra $600 on select major appliances at the Best Buy Appliances Labor Day sale. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant.
Whoa, that's refreshing.
And a 9.5 plus pH for every way you move.
I did take a Spain class today.
Restoring like a pro. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
So again, this is kind of back to what I was saying before, but see if they want to grab a casual lunch or coffee with you first at work. That is like the first step. Like, are they even willing to hang out with you at work for a quick lunch or coffee? Explore if they're even open to meeting you halfway at work. That's really the first step. We're taking baby steps here. You're not like, don't get ahead of yourself and think, well, what if we get into a relationship? Just see if you want to have lunch together. My next tip is more of a reminder, and that is that work is a great place to meet someone overall, okay? Like if you end up in a relationship with someone you work with, this is not HR's first rodeo. Most companies probably have protocols for this. So the advice I got from people who have successfully dated someone in the workplace, meaning they are married to someone in their workplace or they had like a long relationship, they said, talk to them at 3 months, talk to HR at the 3-month mark of actually being boyfriend and girlfriend or partners. Don't do PDA at work. It's okay if your trusted people know about your relationship, but definitely keep it more close to the vest. And finally, the advice I got was it's okay to interact at work, but keep it professional, in the vicinity of work, even at offsites and work happy hours, just keeping it professional when you're around your coworkers is a good idea. Another tip I got from people who have gone through this is have upfront conversations about where this is going to go and how you want to keep it professional no matter what. Like both of you don't want to lose your jobs over this or have to get a new job because you dated someone at work and it didn't work out. So you have to have this conversation upfront before, like I would say after you've confirmed romantic interest that's mutual and before you're in a relationship. Take that step and be like, do we really want to do this? Do we really want to risk our jobs? Like meaning, do we want to risk this having a dynamic where things didn't work out and we have to interact with each other? Is it worth it? So definitely have that conversation. And my last piece of advice on this is that when you're dating someone at work, the same dating advice that I share on my podcast applies, right? You want to go slow. Even if you already know them a little bit, you're still kind of starting from zero in a romantic context. You want to be the chooser. You want to make sure you're communicating directly. You want to show interest when you're interested. All of the same stuff that you do when you're dating intentionally applies here. So do it. And I would say generally shoot your shot. Like don't get too hung up on this. Just see if there's mutual romantic interest and go from there. So, obviously I included the wonderful Dating Intentionally community on this episode because I don't have a ton of experience with this. And here's some other advice that came up that is more from the community. A lot of people said, don't do it, which I expected. Again, I'm not telling you what to do either way. I'm here to just kind of tell you how it can work. And you can decide if you want to do it or not. Like, there's no wrong decision here. Whatever is best for you. Someone said, don't do it unless you've gone through everything that will happen if you break up. Don't do it unless you're mature enough to continue working together if it doesn't work out, which I've said a few times. Someone said to openly discuss the expectations of working together while dating. So yeah, it's like, we don't want to do PDA. We don't want to, kiss in front of our coworkers or whatever. Like when we're at work, we're just talking about work. Like talk about those expectations. This is a good one. Ask yourself if you're only into it because of the taboo of liking a coworker. They added, I've definitely felt more attracted to someone because of this taboo and dynamic. I mean, that's a really good thing to ask yourself. It's like, do I actually like this person because I think we would be a great match? Or am I just turned on by the fact that they're my coworker and we're not supposed to date? Another person said, keep in mind that it's harder to go no contact if you do break up. Very true. And some of you warned that people might have to change jobs if it doesn't work out, which again, that seems extreme. I'm sure this is happening, and let me know in the comments if that happened to you, but it's definitely a consideration. Someone said, don't do it because you're only seeing the work version of them. And this, again, is why you want to have a platonic outside of work hangout before you move into a romantic phase of your relationship. Here's some other pieces of advice that you shared. Look into company policies first. Don't talk to coworkers about it. You don't want people gossiping about you. I agree. A lot of people just said, don't shit where you eat. One person said, don't buy your meat where you get your bread. Funny phrase. All right. And the last one is, I love this advice. Make sure you have more in common than just where you work and work-related things. So true. Yet another reason to have a platonic hangout with them or more than one before you move into a romantic stage. That's the advice on this. Again, when it comes to work crushes, you're allowed to have them. A lot of people have them. This is a totally normal place for people to meet, but you do have to proceed with a lot of caution and take so many things into consideration, especially if if you're the kind of person who cannot be around someone you previously dated, then this might not be the route for you. If you think you're mature enough to handle it, go for it. Just proceed with caution. Okay, I do have a dating dilemma for you. It is related to the topic of this episode. Let's do it. By the way, you can submit your dating dilemmas in the show notes. I have a link for you. They're anonymous. And thank you to everyone who submitted a dilemma, because chances are you're not the only person who's going through whatever you're going through. And it just makes us feel like we're less alone. So thank you. I, female 23, have a crush on a coworker, male 25. I'm remote at our company while he's in person at the office. By flight, I'm an hour away. And at our company's annual conference, we talked all night at both outings and laughed a lot. I even said to my boss how I think he's cute. Later that night, she said to me that she thinks we would be very aligned just based off the conversations she had with him as well. We connected on LinkedIn about a month after the conference, but that's it. If the opportunity was there, it would be such an easy yes for me to go on a date with him. Just based off our conversations and seeing how he acted, I know he's someone I could see myself with and truly believe he'd treat me well. My question is, what should I do next? I hate to message him on LinkedIn, but I don't know if requesting to follow him on Instagram is too much. I'll be at the office soon, so I might see how the vibe is there, but I don't just want to forget about this crush or not do anything about it, but I also don't want to be weird about it if I was to shoot my shot. Thanks for this question. Okay, I think requesting him on Instagram is fine. You've met, right? You're not strangers. This isn't like someone totally that you don't know sliding into your DMs. You guys have had a conversation. I think it's totally fine. So yes, definitely do that. I was alarmed by you talking to your boss about this. I mean, I'm sure there are different kinds of relationships people have with their bosses, but I would say moving forward, don't talk to your boss about your work crushes. I think it's a little risky. I think it maybe crosses the line. But again, I might not be the best person to ask because I haven't worked in an office for 10 years. But that did raise a flag for me. Also, another thing to keep in mind just in general, that you don't have to go for every crush you have. Like, it's fun just to have crushes sometimes. And even if they don't work out, that's okay. Like, even if they literally are a dead end, that's okay. You don't have to go for it every time. One thing you could do is start with some virtual flirtation. Like, if you see him again, totally fine to ask him for his number. Of course, okay to connect on Instagram. And again, you can do this as friends. Like, you can you're getting into this platonically to see if there could be romantic interest, because it sounds like you haven't had that many conversations with him. It's like you met him at a conference and talked all night. Okay. But like, that seems like the only in-person interaction you've had. So it's okay to like spend a little more time feeling it out before you decide you want to see him romantically. And finally, I would just say, don't get too hung up with this guy. Continue to be open to connections locally, not at your work, just in life. And while also, seeing if there is something there with him, seeing if you can connect on a friend basis and shift it into something romantic. I hope this helps. Let us know what happens. You can DM me on Instagram at dating.intentionally. All right, that's all I have for you for this quick episode. I want to thank you so much for listening. Thanks for trusting me. And if you know someone who is navigating dating and could use a confidence boost or a fresh perspective, you can share this episode with them. And if this podcast has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, I'm Talia. This has been Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you next time.